The ballroom fell silent the moment a little girl with a silver leg brace released her mother's hand, wheeled herself forward with trembling determination, and asked the lonely man standing against the far wall for a dance. Cameras that had spent the evening chasing billionaires and celebrities suddenly turned toward the unexpected scene. The elegant guests smiled politely, expecting the stranger to refuse. Instead, the tall single father slowly looked into the child's hopeful eyes, and something inside him broke open. The billionaire mother froze where she stood, unable to move, unable to breathe, because she had no idea that the quiet man her daughter had chosen carried the invisible scars of a Navy SEAL who had survived wars but never learned how to survive losing his own family. In that single heartbeat, 3 wounded lives unknowingly stepped toward a moment that would change everything forever. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Every act of support helps us bring you more emotional stories that remind us the strongest people are often the ones carrying the deepest wounds. The annual Harbor of Hope Foundation Gala was the most glamorous daytime charity event in the city. Crystal chandeliers reflected streams of sunlight pouring through towering windows overlooking the harbor, while musicians filled the grand hall with soft melodies. The event raised millions every year for children's rehabilitation programs, and no one attracted more attention than billionaire entrepreneur Maren Ellsworth. She had built one of the country's largest technology companies, but wealth had never protected her from heartbreak. 5 years earlier, a devastating highway accident had taken her husband and permanently injured her only daughter, 8-year-old Eliza. Since that terrible afternoon, every business victory felt hollow because Maren spent fortunes trying to restore her daughter's future, but she could never buy away the sadness that sometimes appeared in Eliza's bright blue eyes whenever she watched other children run across playgrounds. Despite the physical challenges, Eliza possessed an extraordinary gift. She noticed people everyone else ignored. While wealthy guests admired expensive watches and designer dresses, she quietly thanked servers for bringing water, smiled at musicians between songs, and waved to the security guards standing patiently by the exits. Her mother often wondered how someone who had endured so much could still carry such innocent compassion. Perhaps pain had given the little girl the rare ability to recognize loneliness hidden behind confident faces. Near the ballroom entrance stood a man who seemed completely out of place among the city's elite. His tailored suit was simple rather than fashionable, and although his posture was perfectly straight, his eyes constantly scanned the room with the alertness of someone who had spent years expecting danger. His name was Rowan Mercer. Few guests knew he had once served with distinction as a Navy SEAL, completing missions so dangerous they remained classified. Even fewer knew that surviving combat had been easier than returning home to discover that illness had stolen his wife only months after the birth of their son. Suddenly he found himself raising 6-year-old Owen alone while trying to rebuild a life that no longer resembled the future he had imagined. Rowan accepted an invitation to the gala only because his Veteran Rehabilitation Foundation had received a charitable grant. Crowded events exhausted him. Loud applause reminded him of explosions. Sudden movements made old instincts awaken. Yet he came because the foundation helped wounded service members find jobs, counseling, and hope after military service. He believed showing gratitude mattered, even when smiling required tremendous effort. Owen stayed close beside his father, dressed neatly but looking overwhelmed by the dazzling crowd. He had inherited his mother's gentle smile and his father's quiet strength. Losing his mother so young forced him to mature beyond his years. Instead of complaining, he carefully watched over his father, sensing when memories became too heavy. Their bond had become one of silent understanding, built through shared grief and countless evenings learning together that healing never followed a straight path. As speeches concluded and the orchestra began playing cheerful music, couples slowly filled the dance floor. Children laughed while photographers captured elegant moments for newspapers and social media. Eliza watched from her wheelchair, her hands resting quietly in her lap. She loved music more than almost anything, but dancing existed only inside her imagination. Every note reminded her of dreams interrupted before they could truly begin. Marin noticed the sadness growing across her daughter's face and felt the familiar weight of helplessness settle on her heart. She would have traded every dollar she owned for one carefree afternoon where Eliza could dance without braces, pain, or curious stares. Yet no amount of influence could rewrite reality. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of lowering her eyes, Eliza looked across the ballroom and noticed Rowan standing alone while everyone else celebrated. She recognized the expression immediately because she had seen it reflected in mirrors during difficult hospital nights. It was the face of someone pretending not to feel alone. Before anyone realized what she intended, Eliza gently rolled herself across the polished floor until she reached Rowan. The entire ballroom gradually became quiet as guests watched the unusual encounter unfold. The little girl looked up with complete sincerity, asking if he would share one dance because she believed lonely people should never have to stand alone when beautiful music was playing. Time seemed to stop. Rowan stared at the brave child whose smile carried more courage than many soldiers he had served beside. His vision blurred as memories flooded back, holding his wife's hand during their final hospital visit, promising to keep living for their son, wondering whether happiness would ever feel possible again. He slowly nodded, carefully setting aside every fear and hesitation. Instead of focusing on what Eliza could not do, Rowan knelt beside her wheelchair, gently placed one hand over his heart, and matched every graceful movement of the music while remaining at her eye level. Together they created a dance unlike any the ballroom had ever witnessed. She laughed as he spun beside her chair, raised her hands toward the sunlight, and celebrated each note as though they shared the grandest stage in the world. The audience, expecting pity, witnessed dignity instead. They expected sympathy but found joy. Many guests quietly wiped away tears. Marin stood frozen, unable to understand why this simple stranger had accomplished in 3 minutes what years of expensive therapy never had. For the first time since the accident, her daughter wasn't thinking about limitations. She wasn't watching others dance. She was dancing in the only way that truly mattered, with complete happiness. When the music ended, applause erupted throughout the ballroom. Owen proudly joined them, rushing toward Eliza with a bright smile that made her laugh even harder. Within minutes the two children were talking about favorite books, animals, and dreams for the future. Neither focused on wheelchairs or missing parents. Children often possess the remarkable ability to see hearts before circumstances. The afternoon continued with conversations that felt surprisingly natural. Marin learned about Rowan's military service only after another veteran quietly thanked him for saving lives years earlier. She also discovered he never introduced himself as a hero because he believed true courage belonged to families who waited faithfully at home. Rowan learned about Marin's relentless efforts to improve children's rehabilitation programs, funding research long after newspapers stopped paying attention. Each realized that behind public appearances stood ordinary people carrying extraordinary burdens. Weeks passed, yet none of them forgot that remarkable dance. Owen and Eliza became close friends, encouraging each other through school projects, therapy sessions, and difficult anniversaries. Rowan volunteered at the rehabilitation center where Eliza received treatment, helping injured veterans mentor children facing physical challenges. Marin watched something incredible unfold. The center transformed from a place filled with quiet sadness into one overflowing with laughter, resilience, and shared purpose. One sunny morning, Rowan organized an outdoor obstacle course specially adapted so children with different physical abilities could participate together. Instead of rewarding speed, the event celebrated teamwork, determination, and encouragement. Eliza completed every challenge with Owen cheering beside her. At the finish line she realized something profound. She still wore her brace. She still walked slowly. But she no longer measured herself against people who had different journeys. She measured herself against the frightened little girl she used to be. And compared with that child, she had become fearless. Marin watched from a distance with tears shining in her eyes. For years she believed money alone could solve every problem. She had searched the world for miracle treatments while overlooking the greatest medicine of all, human connection. Rowan never repaired her daughter's leg, yet somehow he helped restore her confidence. Owen never erased her loneliness, yet he replaced it with genuine friendship. Healing had arrived disguised as kindness rather than technology. Rowan experienced his own transformation. The nightmares gradually became less frequent. Instead of isolating himself from crowded places, he found purpose serving others again. Watching children overcome impossible odds reminded him that strength was not measured by medals or military records but by choosing hope after heartbreak. Every smile Eliza shared became another reason to believe that life still held beautiful surprises beyond grief. Months later, the Harbor of Hope Foundation hosted another daytime celebration in the same magnificent ballroom. This time the atmosphere felt completely different. At the center of the room stood a polished wooden dance floor surrounded by children using wheelchairs, walkers, prosthetic legs, and braces. No one watched from the sidelines because everyone had been invited to participate exactly as they were. When the music began, Rowan extended his hand toward Eliza once again. She accepted with joyful confidence, guiding her wheelchair proudly while children and family surrounded them in celebration. There were no whispers of sympathy, only cheers of admiration. Maren realized her daughter had become the symbol of courage she had searched for her entire life. If this story has touched your heart so far, please leave a like, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support allows stories of compassion, courage, and second chances to reach more people who may desperately need them. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness changes lives," if you believe one small act of compassion can transform someone's future forever. As sunlight streamed through the ballroom windows exactly as it had 1 year earlier, Maren finally understood that life's greatest miracles rarely arrive wrapped in wealth or fame. Sometimes they arrive wearing quiet humility, carrying invisible scars, and standing alone against a distant wall until one brave child dares to ask for a dance. Rowan discovered that even warriors broken by loss could still protect hearts instead of battlefields. Eliza proved that disability could never imprison a spirit determined to spread joy wherever it traveled. Owen reminded every adult that love grows strongest when shared without conditions or expectations. Long after the music faded, people remembered not the expensive decorations or influential guests, but the unforgettable moment when compassion defeated loneliness, courage silenced fear, and 4 wounded souls became one extraordinary family of hope. Their story spread far beyond the ballroom, inspiring countless strangers to notice the lonely person in the corner, extend a welcoming hand, and remember that the smallest gesture of kindness can begin the greatest journey of healing. And for everyone fortunate enough to witness that beautiful afternoon, one truth remained forever certain: sometimes the most powerful heroes are not those who win battles, but those who simply say yes when a hurting child asks for a dance.